All right, let's dive right in. We're heading back to ancient Egypt to explore something truly mind-blowing, their attempt to build a literal mirror of the heavens right here on Earth. This is the idea of as above, so below, but on a scale you can't even imagine. So when you think of the pyramids at Giza, what comes to mind? Right, giant tombs for pharaohs. But what if that's just scratching the surface? What if they were something much more? The ancient Egyptians, it seems, saw them as, well, as functional machines for the soul. They were cosmic blueprints, actual star maps built to guide a spirit from our world into eternity. Okay, so to really get this, we have to understand a core belief the Egyptians had about the afterlife. See, for them, it wasn't just one destination. After death, the soul basically had a choice to make, a fork in the road leading to two completely different kinds of immortality. You had the path of the sun, and you had the path of the stars.
Now the first path, the sun path, is probably the one you're more familiar with. It's all about that cycle of rebirth. The Egyptians saw our own spirit as a mirror of the sun god Ra. Think about it, the sun travels across the sky, vanishes into the dangerous underworld, what they called the Duat at night, and then boom, it's reborn, victorious every single morning. They believed our souls could do the same thing, navigate the chaos of life and death, and be reborn. And Ra and Osiris weren't enemies. They were seen as twin souls, really just two sides of the same incredible, divine process.
But here's where it gets really fascinating. That sun path, that cycle of rebirth, that wasn't the end game. Sure, it offered a kind of repeating immortality, but the ultimate spiritual goal for an initiate was something way bigger. It was to break that cycle completely, to become one of the imperishable stars, those stars in the northern sky that, from our perspective, never dip below the horizon. They never set. This wasn't just about being reborn. This was about achieving a final, definitive, eternal life. So the big question is, how do you make that jump? How do you go from a repeating cycle to a truly eternal state? Well, the Egyptians didn't just write philosophical texts about it. No way. They built it. They took this huge spiritual ambition and turned it into a physical, architectural reality that spanned their entire country.
Let's go back to the Great Pyramid for a second. Whether you think it was a tomb for a dead pharaoh or a temple for a living initiate, its core purpose was the same. It was designed as a place of passage, a place of transformation. You can almost think of it as a piece of spiritual technology, a machine built specifically to launch the soul from the earthly plane straight into the celestial.
And the proof? It's literally carved in stone. You know those air shafts inside? Well, they weren't for air. They were star shafts, aimed with incredible precision at key constellations. The southern shafts, they point directly to Orion, who represents Osiris, and the super bright star Sirius, representing his partner Isis. This is like the starting gate for the soul's journey. And the northern shafts, they point to the final destination, those imperishable stars, like Thuban and Draco, which was the pole star back then, and the stars of the Little Dipper. It's a literal physical map.
I mean, that is an unbelievably specific and complex alignment. It just begs the question, right? Was the Great Pyramid just a one-off, a singular wonder? Or was this cosmic map part of a much bigger repeating pattern?
Well, to answer that, we have to travel to the Temple of Dendera, because carved into the ceiling of its Osiris chambers, rooms literally dedicated to this kind of transformation, archaeologists found another map of the heavens, the incredible Dendera Zodiac. And this is where it all clicks together, just brilliantly. Look at how these two maps tell the same story. The Dendera Zodiac is a spiral, and its starting point, the beginning of the journey, is marked by figures representing, you guessed it, Orion and Sirius, the exact same stars the Great Pyramid's southern shafts point to. And where does the spiral lead? Right to the center, which is dominated by the circumpolar constellations, including Draco and Ursa Major, the exact same destination as the pyramid's northern shafts. We're talking two completely different maps, separated by thousands of years and hundreds of miles, describing the exact same spiritual journey. But believe it or not, the scale of this whole project was even bigger. The map wasn't just in the temples or the pyramids. According to the research of Egyptologist Georges Derezi, the very geography of Egypt itself was a mirror of the sky. The Nile River was seen as the earthly reflection of the Milky Way, the celestial Nile. And each of the country's provinces, or nomes, was laid out to correspond to a specific constellation. They built a nation-sized map of the cosmos. Just wow.
I mean, that is a staggering concept.
An entire civilization built as a reflection of the stars. Which, of course, leads us to the big question. Why? Why this incredible obsession with the stars, and why was Sirius, of all stars, so central to this entire system?
The answer, it seems, lies in the absolutely massive timescale the Egyptians were working with. They were clearly aware of a phenomenon that we call the precession of the equinoxes. It's this slow, 25,920-year cycle where our view of the heavens gradually shifts. They called this a great year. And it tells us they weren't just thinking in terms of seasons or human lifetimes. They were thinking in cosmic ages.
Okay, so modern astronomy explains precession with what's called the lunisolar theory. Basically, our planet kind of wobbles on its axis like a spinning top because of the gravitational pull of the sun and the moon. But the sources we're looking at for this explainer point to an alternative idea held by some researchers, the binary theory. This theory suggests it's not just Earth wobbling, but that our entire solar system is locked in a gigantic orbit with a companion star, and that's what causes the whole system to pivot over that nearly 26,000-year cycle.
This, of course, raises a gigantic question. If our sun isn't traveling alone, if it's part of a binary system, then what's its partner? What is the cosmic engine powerful enough to pull our entire solar system through space in a great year?
Well, the prime suspect, according to both ancient traditions and some of the modern research we're looking at, is Sirius. It's not just one star, it's a massive binary star system itself, with at least 3 times the mass of our own sun. And crucially, it's located upstream from us in the same galactic river, our arm of the Milky Way. This theory completely reframes why the Egyptians revered Sirius so much. It wasn't just a guide for the soul, it was potentially the gravitational anchor for our sun, the great engine driving the cosmic cycles that define their entire universe.
Okay, let's take a step back and put all these pieces together. What we're looking at is a worldview that is just profoundly different from our own. It's a vision of a living, sacred cosmos where everything on Earth was in a constant direct dialogue with the heavens.
This was their cosmic blueprint. The soul's journey wasn't just a story. It mirrored the actual paths of the sun and the stars. The massive pyramids weren't just tombs. They were physical maps for that journey to eternity. The Nile River itself wasn't just water. It was a reflection of the celestial Nile, the Milky Way. And those great cosmic cycles, they were potentially driven by a stellar engine, Sirius. In their world, every single element was interconnected. As above, so below wasn't just a catchy phrase. For the Egyptians, it was the operating manual for their entire civilization.
There's a beautiful quote from the Book of the Dead that just perfectly captures this. It talks about the soul traveling downstream to Busiris as a living soul and traveling upstream to Abydos as a Bennu, phoenix. You see? The journey of the soul wasn't some abstract idea. It was a physical trip, navigating their sacred land along the Nile, all to achieve this incredible celestial rebirth as an immortal phoenix, the Bennu bird, up among the stars. When you really think about it, this was so much more than just a belief system. It was a project on a civilization-wide scale. Every single ritual, every temple they built, every city they planned, it was all part of a conscious, massive effort to live in perfect harmony with the cosmos. It's a really powerful vision, isn't it? The Egyptians dedicated their entire culture, their science, their art, everything to aligning with the cosmos. And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. What are we aligning with?